Nivedita, in our profession, we have to constantly offer feedback, whether it is to students or if we are teacher educators to teachers.
Yes.
And it's not an easy thing, especially if it is to adults, right? So I want to ask you, before we talk about your giving feedback, how are you when it comes to receiving feedback? How you must have received feedback too in your life.
Yes.
How
Yes.
how do you absorb it? How do you feel when you get feedback, especially candid, honest feedback?
Yeah. So when I get feedback, many times it may not be negative, but it is always upsetting and little. It shakes me up a little. I get slightly irritated because I have been thinking like a child that I am absolutely right, and I have to change my perspective, and that takes a little bit of time, because usually the kind of feedback that I gave is on my thoughts and on my perspective of any work I'm doing. So it takes, I get irritated at first, I get upset at first, and my first reaction is to deny, is to say that I'm right and give reasons, evidence for me being right. But then even when that moment is over, I start reconsidering. I start reconsidering what I've said and start considering what the other person has said. And then what happens is...
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah, sure.
How long does it take you to go from that first step of denial to this step of reflecting? On an average, I don't mean, very precise.
Yeah, with me, it happens very quickly now. Earlier, it used to take a long time, perhaps. I am not too sure, but now it happens very quickly. I immediately start considering the other person's perspective and reflecting on whether I have put it all wrong. But yet, that doesn't mean that I let go of my thoughts instantly. It takes a long struggle to let go of my thought, because they are based on some very solid fundamental ideas and the way I look at things. So but I accept and agree to think about it in the other from the other perspective, and then I sit down, and after that it's constantly thinking about it, whether it is this way or that way, and then deciding to find evidence to try and see how it works. My third stage is to begin my examination of the difference between what they are saying and what I'm saying, and to work it out practically and see and check which one of them is best.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does it depend on the person who's giving it, the feedback? Does it always follow these stages, whoever gives you the feedback, or does it also depend on the person who's giving you feedback? Because
if it is a feedback which completely overturns my thoughts and changes the way I'm thinking, then I follow these steps. Otherwise, if it is just a minor change, if it is just some addition to my thinking, I don't have to follow these steps. And what you're saying is right, absolutely, Anne, because earlier, when I was a teacher, it would depend on who's giving feedback, because it definitely, if your authority is giving you feedback, you tend to accept the feedback without any kind of arguments. Yes.
So Nivedita, so far we have been talking in very general terms. Without diverging names, if you can share an example of you're receiving very candid but not very positive feedback, what feelings you had and how you came to terms with it. You don't have to mention any names.
Yeah. So I have always believed that one part of my vocation or my talents is writing, and I have received the feedback that I can't write from some people. Now that may be honest feedback because of the kind of writing expected of me.
Excuse me for
But
interrupting. Who are these people? Are
yes.
they people who are supposed to judge your writing, or just?
No, they were people who were my leaders in
They
an
had a position of
organization.
authority. Yeah.
Yeah, coming from a position of authority. Now, although I didn't believe this feedback completely, I did take their perspective into consideration with much heartburn. I did take their perspective into consideration and have always thought about it, in what way can I improve my writing to make it reach audiences, because writing is for audiences, it's not for you. So if you're writing for yourself, because in a particular organization, yesterday I was thinking about that, in a particular organization, one of the feedback from the leaders was, you people all write as if you're writing for yourselves, you don't write for an audience at all. So that was a general feedback, and this was a specific feedback to me. Considering all that, I have been thinking about it and improving my writing in various ways.
But did you grapple with, how dare they say this? I don't agree. Did you grapple with these feelings at all, or no?
Yes, of course I did. Of course, I went through an emotional turmoil in which I felt very depressed at one point of time. Because when someone says your life's dream is to write, and someone tells you you can't write, that's a sweeping statement, and that makes you go through a re-examination of the self. And that's why I went through a lot of turmoil, a lot of emotional turmoil, and but one passes through it and one emerges somewhat the winner.
Yeah. So just a question. So you mean to say the feedback was very categorical? You can't write, or was it okay, specific? Okay, this could have been better. Was it like that?
No, it wasn't like that. They say it was direct. It says that you can't write. Yes, it was categorical.
I think you're also raising a very important point, Nivedita, which is, this was striking exactly at a tender spot, which is, you pride yourself on your writing. Now, supposing you don't think you're a great singer, I don't know if you think you're a great singer, but supposing, for the sake of this argument, you don't think you're a great singer, and somebody gives you feedback when you sing, saying, Nivedita, you don't sing well. I don't think it'll bother you in the least, because you yourself don't think you're a great singer.
True.
But you think Nivedita writes well. And when somebody tells Nivedita, you can't write, that hurts.
Yeah, absolutely true. So when it's striking the heart of thing and your beliefs in yourself, it hurts more than ever. If it is striking some of the principles that you believe, it hurts more than ever. But if it is striking only the ways of doing things, then it hurts less.
What I think also what stands out is the fact that the person was very, the way the person gave the feedback was very straightforward, or in his or her eyes, it was very straightforward. But I think the way you give feedback matters.
Yes.
Nivedita might think she's a good writer, but if the person had focused, okay, maybe you could change this and you could change this, then maybe Nivedita would find it, or rather easier to accept feedback. Would that have made a difference?
Yes. So I have sort of thought about this a lot, and I feel that a person who gives feedback, including me, if I have to give feedback, I should not prescribe, but describe and suggest. Describe what is being done and suggest what perhaps could be done. Try and remove yourself from it, and expect a person to be upset, because feedback by itself creates that situation. You are assuming a little too much in your relationship, so expect that the person might be upset, And then language. I've also thought about language inclusion very recently after reading Ron Richards' book, and I am re-examining my own language. Is that do we use the language of suggestion? Do we use words like perhaps? Do you think so? Or do we use the language of inclusion? Like we will do this. I would, if I were you, I would have done this.
So far, Nivedita, we've talked about you receiving feedback. Now, can you give us some example when you gave feedback? How did you do it when it was successful? Give us an example when it was successful first. We'll come to a failure later.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when I have reached an age when people take feedback from me very sweetly.
Me too. That's what gray hair does.
So it's a little difficult to remember a situation where people have not taken feedback well. But yes, when I give feedback, 100%, and I sometimes forget, very impulsive, and I sometimes forget myself. So I have given feedback, and I remember an incident where I told someone, your sister will not be able to do this. So that person was extremely offended at first.
It was some academic task.
Academic task. So that person was very offended first, and then later that person realized perhaps, or came to terms with it and understood that her sister perhaps has better strengths or different strengths rather than what she was doing. Somebody said, my sister has written this, and can you give feedback on this? So I said, I directly said, your person will not be able to do, your sister will not be able to do this job of this writing this. So that is very direct.
Just a question here. But that is exactly what you what the other person did with you.
Yeah, exactly, Annie. So it is not as if I am a saint and the other person is a criminal. I am equally responsible for giving.
You are being spontaneously honest.
Yeah, and that person might have been spontaneously honest too.
Also,
yeah. But in a leadership position, I still feel you have the responsibility of nurturing your employees.
No, I love the sentence you've written in that Facebook post, about painting and about how the right mix of colors have to come in order to make one little mistake of, either with a word or a sentence would change the whole context.
Yes.
Or, acceptance of feedback.
Yeah, absolutely, you're right. And I have, in one of my projects in school, I followed a project-based method of teaching in which children were supposed to do projects on various topics throughout the year. I was teaching English, but they followed a project-based methodology. So when they did the project and they presented their findings, and then they gave each other feedback, and I would give only the final feedback. It was all very structured in the sense that the children knew what to give feedback. They made the criteria themselves. We had a meeting and we said, okay, you have all done your project. Now, what will be the criteria for judging this? So we made a list of the children came up with criteria to judge the project. What would be the points on which they would judge the project? I had to do a lot of mentoring and a lot of editing in that. And then we came up with a list, and then each group had that list. and they judge the projects of the other children. Actually, the reason for the strategy was nothing to do with reflection or helping children to give feedback or anything like that, but just to keep the children quiet while the other people. I now realize that it became a good feedback strategy because children learned to give very good feedback. They were honest, and with children, they are very much they are resilient and innocent, and they were very, very honest. These children were in 7th standard, so 11 to 12-year-olds. Yeah.
So when you give feedback to adults, do you have, specific rubrics, very, objective? Okay, this is the way I looked at this part of it. Whether it's a class observation or whether it is a piece of writing that you are looking at. Are you very specific about the rubrics or whatever, the aspects of the judgment?
A piece of writing, definitely there are rubrics and very specific rubrics, although they are in the mind, they are not they're not necessarily written down. But when you give feedback, the problem comes when you give feedback about things which are intangible, about thoughts, feelings, ideas, about perspectives, about maybe pedagogy also. So don't attack the main idea. Introduce small little changes which will change the main idea slowly. Especially with children, I have found that a checklist or a set of criteria is very important, or even a rubrics.
Talking about checklists, reminds me about an incident where in the school that I worked, we had a coordinator going for a class observation. Now, we used to have checklists about, whether the teacher used a video or was there an interaction with the children, several rubrics on the checklist. So ultimately, if the coordinator just went by the checklist and the teacher has not used a video because it was unnecessary in that particular class, her overall marking would the fact that she's not used the video would reflect on her overall marking. So so I don't know whether checklists are good or bad. It gives you direction, yes. But at the same time, I think at the end of it, one has to use your,
discretion. Yeah, one has to see its place.
Yes.
The Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath.
Yeah.
One has to remember that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So if we were to conclude, Nivedita, I think what you've said is that if we are offering feedback and it is about a belief or a practice that the feedback receiver is very attached to, then we have to go gently. We have to go slow, maybe laterally, maybe step by step, because it's going to defeat the purpose if we go head on. But if we are giving feedback about something that person is not that holding on to so tightly, it's okay. We can be reasonably direct.
Yes. I was saying that if we, it also depends upon the relationship with the person and the rapport with the person and what is at stake. Because sometimes your job is at stake.
There is a place for a checklist, a set of criteria, without us getting mechanically. Now, we should also not get attached to the criteria. We should be able to hold it lightly.
Right.
Yeah.